Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm TJ Banasik, and I'm a Senior Program Manager with Microsoft. Currently on the Azure Global Customer Engineering team, which is formerly known as Azure CAT. So I want to take a moment of your time tonight to talk about government cybersecurity in the cloud with Microsoft. I know there's a lot of good use cases out there in the industry, and we're interested in telling you a little bit about some of the things that we offer and talk about how we can partner together for the group information security community. I wanted to start off with a Keynote of Focus from our Microsoft CEO, Satya Nadella. Satya states that security is a top priority, and we're committing to working with others across the industry to protect our customers. This is interesting because at Microsoft, we foster a culture of innovation and growth. We're looking to empower all human beings to achieve more, and as everyone in this room and listening on the recording as well, there's no difference in what we're doing in security. Let's talk about the security landscape as far as what we have going on in the industry today. Around the corner about some of the challenges that we have out there and the things that we're facing. So I want to start by talking about the on-premise environment. Many of us are either coming from a traditional data center to where security was something that we would build a perimeter, we would wall a garden off, we would harden the network perimeter with security appliances and demilitarized zones, do everything we could do to keep the threat out and our data and our business inside. And as we've evolved and started moving into hybrid environments and in the cloud, we start to see that there's challenges with moving the business out into that place. The first, of course, is cost. There's several things that drive us up. First and foremost, security tools are one of the biggest challenges because we know they are expensive. CISOs, due to organizational requirements, but also due to fear of breach and challenges, will invest in security tools, technologies, and put them in place. That inevitably will increase complexity, and I'd like to kind of challenge you all to think about it from a different mindset. If I invest in 20 security tools that are only doing 5% of their capability, am I making myself more secure by doing that? Or am I possibly moving from a defense in depth architecture to a defense in complexity type of architecture? The only guarantee is that complexity opens risks, it increases costs, and it challenges what we do. We know that there's a talent gap in the industry. I'm not the first one to say it. ESG did a recent study looking at some of the gaps in the cyber marketplace, and we're finding that 53% of international organizations are finding a cyber talent gap. And of that, the organizations average 2 open cyber recs that they can't fill, especially when you look at places like development, engineering, and management, some of the key talent gaps. So when we start to think about the threat, that's where the challenge comes in place. If we look at cybersecurity from a more traditional point of view, we're thinking about how do we protect infrastructure and communications and things like that. But at the rate cyber is evolving, we need to change the lens in how we view it. Cyber is no longer based solely in that. It's more so the fifth domain of warfare over air, land, sea, and space. So this new cyber battlefield is where our businesses reside. Let's talk about expanding our digital estate. We all know that the world of yesterday involved our traditional data center and our perimeter, which was easy to defend from a walled garden approach. Now that we start to move into hybrid and cloud environments, we bring in interesting, unique, and business-enabling technologies. Internet of Things, mobile devices, bring your own devices, SCADA, and Centrid start to distribute the perimeter in how we do security. So it changes our focus from something simply around hardening and network security to more at the endpoint, at the edge. At Microsoft, we're happy to announce that the Microsoft Defender Atp, which is our endpoint agent, has recently taken the top right of both the Gartner Magic Quadrant and the Forrester Wave. So when we think about how do we protect our digital estate, we need to think of doing things differently. What happens when there's a machine that lives in a partner network and it never comes home? How do I secure that and have visibility into it and integrate with that with my cloud? I like to use an example of home security to talk about how we're changing our mindsets. If I've got a house, say I'm kind of a homebody and I hang out from time to time, I feel pretty secure other than the fact that, there may be a burglar, I'll lock my doors at night and I feel relatively safe. Well, maybe now I decide that I want to get out and about in the neighborhood, hang out in my yard, go see the neighbors, and turn into the social butterfly that I am. Well, I'm starting to get kind of word that maybe there's some questionable characters in the neighborhood, and my doors and the locks are probably not what I need anymore. I need to start thinking about a home security system. So go down to Best Buy, pull out some Arlos, put up some cameras, maybe some door and window sensors and motion sensors, and I'm starting to feel better. All right, but I want to hang out in my yard too, so let me get out there and, if I want to feel secure, let me put a fence around. And I can't be here all the time, so let me get a gate guard, pay somebody to do 24/7 monitoring. Well, that's great, but now I've got questionable characters that are hanging around on my fence, and I don't really like that. So I want to move them a little bit further back. I'm going to dig a moat. And now, wow, I'm feeling great, but they're still hanging out around that moat, so let me put some tigers in. Let them start swimming around, and then I'll be in the place that I want to be. And that's the self-eating apple of what we're doing in expanding our digital state. If I decided to start from that planning phase, moving to the cloud and doing it securely can be challenging. And at Microsoft, we like to delve into what we can do to help you on that journey. So in comes Azure in our cloud. We like to enable you guys to achieve more, to learn and partner and grow together in our journey in the cloud. Artificial intelligence, machine learning are some of the focal points that we'll bring together. And we're really excited about some of the advances that we're making in the security operations space and management. So I'll show you guys some of those technologies here in a moment as part of the demo. I do like to talk about our security operations teams. I'm a security ops guy myself, so I can't overlook it. At Microsoft, we're employing 3,500 FTEs to keep you safe as a consumer base, as a partner base. And what that means is these personnel will monitor the environment, take their learnings, put it into all of our platforms, and distribute it within the information community collectively. You might say, how do we do that? And it is challenging to explain, but I'll do my best with this handy-dandy PowerPoint. So this is the Microsoft Intelligence Security Graph, arguably one of the biggest threat intelligence networks in the world. Some of the exciting things that we're able to do is collect 6.5 billion signals daily from Outlook, Azure, OneDrive, Windows, Xbox, Bing, Microsoft accounts, and so on and so forth. When we bring that back, we're able to synthesize those signals and detect threats early, left of bang, before they challenge your enterprise. We analyze 400 billion emails per month, and we are with 90% of the Fortune 500 companies leading an industry. So what that means is we're able to translate that to catching 5 billion threats on devices within that ecosystem every month. I like to take Dilfoil as a good news story as far as what we can do with that network of intelligence. Dilfoil was a relatively nasty crypto miner variant that came about last year. We were able to pick it up with an MDATP agent and believe it was creeping around in Eastern Europe. The MDATP endpoint took the signature of that, mitigated a threat, and pushed it out to 400,000 machines within milliseconds. So the ability to react to a new threat and protect across that entire ecosystem is something relatively groundbreaking for the industry. So let's talk about what we're doing with Azure. What are some of the things that we offer? And I can't say that we do everything. I think we do things strongly, and we do care deeply about our security mission. But we're looking, especially in a venue like this in Meetups, to partner with you, our customers, our industry partners, and evolve this security for things that we do. We like to offer alternatives in the marketplace. We like to partner with the strongest security vendors to make sure that we can provide a comprehensive offering. So the first thing that I touched on earlier was identity and access management, and we can talk about Azure Active Directory. One of the most unique points from a security perspective in moving to the cloud is moving AD to the cloud, make it public facing to the internet. Talking about that 5 years ago was crazy, and we're making good progress in that. One of the biggest challenges you'll see is if you're authenticating the AD in the cloud and you're not using multi-factor authentication, it leaves you open. The attacker can brute force your account and anybody you care about as many times as the lockout duration will allow. So 9 times, 5 times an hour, whatever it is, they'll keep guessing until they get it right. And we know the threat will get it right with time. Statistical fact. So when we bring in things like Microsoft MFA, we take something you know in your password to something you have in your mobile device, and you're able to assure that you are the identity and have the access that you require. We're able to take that even further with something like facial and biometric recognition. So something you know, something you have, and something you are is enough to assuredly say that you have secure access to your environment and you're not an attacker. That's an option that we offer, but we also partner with places like RSA. If, say, you've made investments in another technology, we're able to synthesize that within the environment. Role-based access control and Azure Identity Protection are some features that maybe I'll talk about in the next meetup. App and data protection are some of the key points that we do. As far as encryption, we're able to pick granular points within a network or an environment, encrypt data in storage and rest, in transit and use, you name it. Azure Key Vault is the technology that allows us to manage our keys. So if I want to bring my own key, I can do that. If I want to trust Microsoft to create one for me, I can do that as well, but very granular in how I apply that. A lot of that's going to revolve around my business needs and compliance regulations, but it gives me an option and a different way to approach it. Network security is something that we talked about as far as a heavy technology, especially in the world of traditional and on-premise data centers. There's quite a few things that we're doing in this space. Network security group gives us the ability to segregate our environment and our firewalls, put it in place, limit the attacker's ability to pivot within the environment. So the good thing is, if you need these, you can spin them up point and click. We don't charge for them. They're very readily deployed within the environment, very easy to use. If you fall within more of a traditional mindset or you want a hardware type, a capable firewall, layer 1 through 7 on the edge, Azure Firewall does a great job with that. ExpressRoute is our VPN technology that'll move your data into our cloud securely and make sure that you've got that VPN in place and that encryption to know that it's going to and from the right place without concern. What we're really excited to talk about is threat protection and what we're doing with security management operations in the cloud. I'm sure many of you have heard about Azure Security Center. It's been around now for about 2 years in the industry. It's an interesting tool because I will call it more of a management and security governance risk compliance type tool. It gives you visibility in your policy and lets you know about problems before they break out. And we'll talk about that more when I guide you guys through it in the demo. Last piece that we have on there is Azure Sentinel. There is a ton of buzz, ton of excitement in the industry about that. And what we've done is created our own cloud-native SIEM that synthesizes and integrates our threat intelligence, provides capabilities for security orchestration, automation, and response SOAR, the ability to train your own machine learning models to automate and maybe augment resourcing constraints with things like playbooks. So very excited about that. I get a lot of questions as far as where is it? Where can I get it? How do I use it? So best advice, go into the marketplace. It's free right now, public preview in Azure. Download it, check it out, and play around with it. Let us know what you think. So now we're going to move into the demo portion. There's a few things that I wanted to show you guys tonight in Azure as far as what we can do. Azure Security Center is the first point that I talked about. We also have something that is called Blueprints. So Azure Blueprints gives us the ability to apply a governance framework. And I'll talk about why we do that and what some of the challenges have been historically with that kind of attestation within a compliance framework. And we'll round it out with Marketplace just to talk about our partner ecosystem and some of the good offerings we have in that environment. So I just got to back out. Apparently this cloud thing lives in the internet, so I'm going to have to use this to show it to you guys. Please excuse any delays in clicks. I'm sure that's because of the guest Wi-Fi and not due to cloud slowness. All right, so let's talk about Security Center, what it is and how we use it. When we go into Azure, if you look down here, this is our navigation panel and ribbon on the side. We'll roll down the Security Center. It's included in there by default, so relatively easy to get to. When I click on that, it brings me to the overview, and you're like, wow, look at all this good stuff. There's a lot of colors, and I want to see what's going on, and we'll get to that. I don't want to overwhelm you guys, but let's start off with the pricing and settings feature. And this certainly isn't a sales pitch. I'm an engineer myself. The only reason I bring this up is to talk about what comes out of the box free that you can start using immediately. And if you want to look at more advanced features, what we have in the standard offering. So Free is there. It isn't enabled by default. So if you're interested in using this, it's recommended to create a log analytics workspace because ASC is heavily dependent on reading your logs to make decisions and give you indicators and information. So we go into the free, we can enable it there, or if we decide that we want to go to standard, this is where we've got some bells and whistles like just-in-time VM access. It gives me the ability to open a temporary lease on a firewall and maybe open up a port 22 for an administrator, go in there in a change window and make a change and then remove that lease immediately after I'm done with that. If anybody's ever gone through the process of auditing the firewall, and I'm sure many of us have, it's incredibly painful to look at it and say, who put this in there? Why is this there? I don't know. Maybe that was needed for an hour, maybe for a week, maybe it's critical business, but it's not documented. So the nice thing about JIT is I can use it for a lease, I can document it, it'll put the rule in and remove it when I'm done with it automatically. So it helps me keep a cleaner environment. It helps us work together to improve security. Some of the things that we want to do when we're configuring it, set it up for threat detection, start to synthesize some of my other controls in the environment, feed those logs in. Data collection is something important. I recommend enabling all event logging to give it some more context to work with, and email notifications. It's surprisingly how often people will go beyond this feature and not put somebody on there. So with email notifications, I can take my SOC manager, Security Operations Center, put his or her email on there, get their phone number, and make sure if my Microsoft monitoring team sees something that's out of whack, they're going to call that person immediately versus having nothing in there. So I would definitely recommend that. So let's get back into Security Center and see what we have going on here. All right, if I look in policy and compliance, all right, I don't know what this is, but it's drawing my eyes in. So I'm seeing a badge and I'm seeing points and some kind of a scoring system. It looks like a game and I want to play it. So let's see what's going on with it. I see 275 out of 520, so I'm already about 500. I guess I'm doing all right. If I want to look at my environment, this is a relatively simple environment, and I don't want to scare you guys too much with PowerShell, but I was able to deploy this environment with 22 lines of a PowerShell script. It kicks out a resource group, a vanilla Windows 2016 server, log analytics workspace, and a key vault with a key. So I can see that if I'm shooting for compliance, ISO 2701, all right, I'm doing all right. I'm halfway there, not a problem. PCI, I got some concerns right here. If I want to start processing credit cards, I might want to think about it until I can get some of these controls mitigated. For SOC, a lot of work to do there. So let's start to navigate down into our resource hygiene. I know I've got challenges. Where are they? Wow, I see a lot of red. I see 27 high security vulnerabilities. So if I'm in the cloud and these are public facing, these are probably things that I want to take care of right now. So where am I going to focus my time and energy? So let me look in here. We've got a quad chart right here. I can see some compute resources, so need to look at my server. Got some challenges in networking and maybe some identity access management. So let's drill down a little bit further and see what's going on. And I can do that by going to recommendations down in the ASC blade, and it'll pop up a set of recommendations. I like to sort them by severity. So remember, this is a game and this is a points-based system. So if you look over here, each one of these are points. These are on the table right now, open vulnerabilities that if I address these, I can increase my security score. So what do we have going on in here? Let's click on something like management ports. I see 10 points in for that one. Let's drill down and see what's going on. So we'll get a description. This is saying I've got some holes in my firewall. I've got some management and networking ports open to the public internet. Definitely something I would be concerned about. If I'm not a cyber professional, this tells me some of the threats that I'm thinking about. And here's some manual remediation steps. Well, I don't have time for manual and I don't know what this is talking about. So I'm just going to select the asset right here. This will bring me into the blade with my Windows server, automatically pivot onto networking, and here we go. All right, I see 3389 RDP open and some Windows management ports. I definitely don't want those out there. So let me just remove them. There we go. And we can see that we've deleted both of those rules. So great. Well, now how do I get in there? Because I don't even have a rule to access my own appliance anymore. Let's go back to recommendations, and I'm seeing something in here saying apply just-in-time access. So I would use this feature to create a lease to get in from my IP to the cloud-based IP and do the management that I need to do. So let's go back here and look at maybe one more recommendation and talk about some of the cool features we can do. Disk encryption, wait a minute. I thought you Microsoft folks said that BitLocker came in encrypted by default, and this is saying it's not, which is true. Let me hop in here and see what's going on. So we talk about encryption and about what we need to do, and we can do it manually and we can take the time, but as I said, I'm not going to wait for that. I'm going to click and drill down into the asset itself. Brings us to an overview. Oh, encryption right there. Let's go ahead and drill down on that. So I want to encrypt my operating system, pull that down. Now I need to think about Key Vault. Well, where am I going to get my encryption keys? I'll just use the Microsoft Key Vault, and I could have brought my own keys or maybe trusted Microsoft for those in the encryption algorithms. So I'll pan over here to the right, select my resource group, pull out our key, version, select, and away we go. So, oh, what's this? I see, do I want to enable this Key Vault for disk encryption? Yes, I do, and there it goes. So that's all it takes right there, and Azure is now encrypting my machine. I'll let that bake in for give or take 30 minutes to an hour. Once it's ready to go, I'll panel back to my secure score and see that those points have increased and I have a better posture. So what if doing that manually or piece by piece isn't worth my time? Or what if I have regulatory compliance requirements that said I can never open a vulnerability like that, that's unacceptable, and I need to either start with the secure configuration, and not only that, but attest to my auditors and take the time to monitor it. In comes Azure Blueprints, and I know Karina touched on that earlier. We've been very excited to announce that we recently spun out the NIST 853 Rev 4 into Azure Government. So I want to show you guys how easy it is to apply a framework like that and monitor it. When we get into Blueprints, we just go to Getting Started, and it's interesting to see that we could start with something blank and create it ourselves, or just go down here in this list of templates and pull one out of the box. So we're going to go into the NIST 853 Blueprint. Probably want to give it a name. Do something original like 853. All right, there we go. Default location, where do I want to save it at? Let's choose my subscription. That's me, select. Save the draft. And that's just telling Azure that I want to use that draft. And we can see that it's kicking up here. All right, well, let me apply the draft that I just created. Let me put that over the subscription and work with it in my environment. All right, so here we go. I'll click on it. What I want to do is publish it. And what this is saying is these controls are going to be published to my environment. Some of them will be automatically resolved. Some of them will be alerted and monitored on, but it gives me a granular level of control to apply that. It's not too late for me to edit that. Maybe I want to do multiple compliance and I have overlap, or maybe I have custom business requirements that are going to require more than what's out of the box. But the ability to edit it is all going to go on right here. Once we're happy with it, we'll publish it. Version, maybe we'll call that version 1. Change notes, talk to my board about that. All right, so publishing the blueprint, away we go. And once it's published, we can go back to tracking it. Now, the interesting part about tracking it is this is the product we get of applying these blueprints. So I'm sure many of us have gone through audits before. In the federal side, FISMA is key and several other standards. So you know if you're meeting with an auditor, it could take you all day to go through these controls and attest to it, and it's a back and forth game and it's challenging. With Azure Blueprints, if your environment resided here and you had this applied, you would get the output logs of what has been in place, what's not, and what your status is. So you can view the log activity, export to a CSV if you just want to hand a report to an auditor, or export it to Event Hub. So maybe that firewall port that I showed you guys earlier was something that I care about and I want to know right away. So let me integrate that with our SIEM, Azure Sentinel, or whatever else I may be using, and that way my SOC teams can alert as soon as they see that vulnerable condition. So let's move into the marketplace. As I said, this is, I think, a community of security technologies. And while we do things well, we look to the industry to partner and learn and grow in the security space. We can't do it all, and that's why we have things like Marketplace to take the strongest providers or what we have in industry and boost our ecosystem with this, to share threat intelligence and make the world a more secure place. So the Marketplace offering is where we integrate those partners. In commercial right now, we've got approximately 1,000 partners, few hundred offerings. In the government space, there's give or take 50 with about 300 solutions, mainly an on-demand type of a model. So the interesting point is I've got a few different ways to go with this. What I want to do right now in the Marketplace is pull up Barracuda. So when I see this, Barracuda has a wealth of offerings, very strong partner, especially when we look within the Microsoft Gov space. So in there, if I've made investments in my CapEx or OpEx budget, I can bring my own license and synchronize that within Azure. If I want to do an enterprise agreement, I've got an app for that. I can drill down on it. Maybe I want to do pay-as-you-go because I don't know what it will cost. There's an option for that there. Or one of my favorites is the free trial. Instead of me having to go to the internet, spin up a VM in IaaS, download Barracuda, and put it in, which all of them will probably tell me it's much easier than that. But all of those steps, I can just pop up a free trial and spin up with that, automatically synchronized into my environment. So one of the great things that we have is this Marketplace and the partnership with you all and the customer's environment that we have. So that's all I have for now. I appreciate the time and patience with much of my babbling. I think we're kind of tight on time, so if anybody has any questions, I'll be hanging around afterwards. I'm more than happy to delve into any questions you have. I'd like to turn it over now to Alden Spraggins from our Barracuda team.